All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another edition of What Drives You. I am one of your co-hosts, Stan Windhorn. With me is my good buddy and co-host, Carl Bauer. Carl, say hello to everyone.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks again, you guys. This year has been amazing. Actually, our guest, who we'll find out about this in a moment, is connected with Stan, but this is going to be episode 100. So thank you.
Whoa, Mark, you're episode 100.
Nice.
This is great.
I'm a centurion, centennial,
Yes, you
centurion,
are.
something like that.
Well, everybody, I want you to meet a guy I've known for a long time because he married my cousin. Man, it's been a number of years ago. So I guess that officially makes us cousins, Mark. But everybody, I want to introduce you to Mark Boomershine. Mark, thank you so much for taking time out this early morning, cold morning for you guys.
It is chilly here in Atlanta. We were 70 degrees last week and now we're 20.
Man, it's been doing that in Texas too. A couple weeks ago, I had the boat out on the lake.
Yeah, amazing.
It was nuts. Yeah. Well, Mark, thanks so much for joining us. When we first kind of started this, because Carl and I met through the automobile industry, that's kind of how we came up with the title of What Drives You.
I
Uh,
like it.
and initially, we had a lot of people who were involved in the auto industry, but we've expanded that now. I mean, we've had guests from all walks of life and just a wild number of different people who have had success in different things. And we're excited to have you on because you've had just such a varied and interesting career in life as well. But let's just kind of go back to like when I first met you. I think your family was very, very involved in the automobile industry. Tell
Yep.
us a little bit about the Boomer Shine auto empire that used to exist there in Atlanta.
So my dad, or sorry, grandfather, Walter Boomershine Sr., um, was born in 1896. He fought in World War One. He actually lied in order to join the army. 2 years younger than he was supposed to. He went off and he fought in France in Verdun, which any history buff will know that that was a gruesome, gruesome war. Survived, came back. He was from Ohio. He left Ohio. He came. He started working with General Motors Holding Corporation, which was General Motors, kind of like GMAC today, I guess. And he
Yeah.
was sent to Atlanta to shut down kind of a flailing. At the time, it was Oakland Motors, which later became Pontiac, but a dealership that wasn't making it. And he got into the books and he said, I think there's a way to turn this around. And long story short, became the dealer principal, became an entrepreneur, left the corporate world at the time, and started the dealership. And he was a hard driving, he was a boxer in the army. Like he was a dude that you didn't mess with. Um,
Yeah.
and he turned it around and he had very stout business principles. And up until, so that was in 1929 when, so the middle of the Depression, we started, the car business. My dad got involved in, after being in France with the Air Force, came back in 1952, 53, got involved. And so then you had father, son, the second generation always has the ideas, hey, we need to do this and we need to do this to stay current. And at the
Yeah.
time, so in the late 60s, 70s, the OPEC, the oil embargo, my dad saw that these big American cars are not going to sell well, so we need a smaller alternative. Honda approached him. He says one of the worst business decisions he ever made was saying Hondas look like turtles and they're never going to sell. Um, so he passed on Honda a few years later. So in 1969, we got the Datsun franchise, which later became Nissan.
Nissan. Yeah.
And at the time, it was unheard of for a General Motors franchise to also sell. Well, it was very difficult to have a domestic and an import,
Right.
especially under the same roof. So we had to get a different location. So then he was kind of off and running, and so we had Pontiac and Nissan until really the late 80s. And in the late 80s, he just went on an expansion phase. So from 80 the late 80s, or sorry, early 80s to late 80s. We sold everything in 99, but by the time we sold, we had 12 different franchises, 6 different locations, body shops. So we sold Pontiac, Buick, GMC, Hummer, Isuzu, Mitsubishi. We finally got Honda, still had Nissan, Ford, which was a big thing to go from General Motors to Ford.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and then at age 26, so I went to University of Alabama, studied business with a minor in studio art. Got out of school, always wanted to be a car dealer, always worked summers. I sold my first car at 15, a white Pontiac Sunbird to a Delta flight attendant. Still remember, it was my first walk up. Did a features and benefits presentation. Slight negotiation, walked her into F&I, was sold the first car at 15. And then by 26, I was a general manager of our Pontiac Buick GMC Hummer location, which had about 125 employees. And so, yeah, and then we sold in 99, and then I was unemployed without a job and needed to reinvent myself.
Well, let's talk about that. First of all, man, it sounds like your grandfather was just I wish I could have met him. He sounds like he was just sort of a badass. I mean, first of all, in those generations to be willing to be so um, dedicated to your country that you're wanting to go and defend
Yeah,
us when
I'm going to
I'm going to
lie.
lie
So I
about my age just so I can go and defend the country. I mean, I think some of that maybe has been lost through the generations where that enthusiasm to support our country has changed. But anyway,
I do
he
think
sounds like a heck of a guy.
wars were romanticized a bit. Now we know a lot more through film and news and everything how gruesome it
Good
is, but
point.
you were kind of romantic about it still. But I'm not. That doesn't lessen the fact that you up and leave home, say goodbye to mom and dad, and
Yeah,
go off to a different country.
go put your life on the line. That's
Yeah.
that's that's great. So was a big part of the decision to kind of move out of the automobile industry because your father was what I mean, what
So he
made the
was
family decide that it was time to sell all the dealerships?
he was in his late 70s at the time. He was trying to retire. And long story short, it was during the consolidation phases of the automotive world. Wayne Huizinga
Yeah.
was starting to buy up dealerships. Asbury Automotive Group, all of that was going on. And my dad had some ill advice by some attorneys slash advisors. Hey, we need to get in that game and do an IPO. And long story short, we over leveraged and we were going to have 35 locations.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and we went to do the IPO. We didn't sell the shares that we needed to. And then we were in a what do we do phase because we've made commitments to these dealers. And yeah, so it was a forced decision to sell. The
Okay.
saving grace was that my dad, he was a car guy. Where's my? This is a super cool photo. This is him in Belgium after
Wow.
leaving France. That's his Porsche 356 that he bought over there. He shipped it back over here to the States. So he appreciated
Nice.
cars, but the thing he didn't, he wasn't a car. He said the car is what we sell. And if you fall in
Right.
love with the sheet metal will fall in love with you. So if you're like, I love this car, I love too much to sell, or I'm not selling it for that. So kind of an early stack them deep and sell them cheap type thinking.
Right.
But he was more of a land guy. So real estate. So we always owned all our real estate. And that was the saving grace. That was the collateral that we needed to kind of unwind things. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
at the time, it was like, woe is me. It's the end of personally my world. What am I going to do? My dream's been
Right.
taken away from me. I remember writing a letter. I went to work at a dealership in Denver to not be the boss's son, to say,
Mm.
to see, hey, am I any good at this? And I was good. And I sat there in Denver, wrote a letter to my dad saying, I formally want to if you'll let me take over the dealership when the time comes. So I had fully mentally commitment. That was post college,
Right.
last year, senior year. So I was all in. So then to not have that be there was, yeah, very. It wasn't well. It was devastating. And that's when Cinda. I don't know if you remember, Cinda and I backpacked around the world.
Yeah.
Um, so we were like, let's get the heck out of here. And we literally backpacked around the world for 4 months, which at the time seemed so long. We should have done 6 months to a year, but we had $100 budget a day, and we went. We saw Mount Everest. We went all over Europe and did Thailand, and then I came back, and I was like, all right, let's recommit. Enough moping, pity party. Let's go.
Well, one thing that I've always admired about you and Cinda is you guys have just lived the most unusual and cool life. You guys are always doing cool stuff. You went backpacking around the world. I believe, if I remember this from Cinda, that the next sort of venture is the two of you started like a dune buggy. What am I thinking
Yeah,
of here?
off
Where people
road
could.
off road
Okay, go ahead.
adventure tour,
Yeah, off-road adventure tour. There you go.
which was inspired by, we did a tour in Scotland, we did one in Thailand, and we did one in Portugal, where you would just hop in. I was a huge Land Rover guy, the Defender. We sold the Humvee, but I was always secretly a Land Rover guy. Just the thought, I grew up seeing Marlon Perkins on whatever
Oh
that,
yeah.
what was that?
Mutual of Omaha's
Mutual
Wild
of,
Kingdom.
yeah, those Land Rovers going next to a cheetah. I was just like that. That's just the coolest image. So when we did tours like that in these different countries, all through, I remember being on a train through Romania, not able to sleep. And I'm like, I think I could do that back in America, but where would it be? And so 2 hours north of Atlanta is a resort community called Highlands, North Carolina. Beautiful. It's technically a rainforest, the Nantahala National Forest. I was like, that's where I do it. So I like landed, and we got done with our trip in December, and by May, I had acquired the first vehicle, a Defender 110 diesel that was in Boston. I flew up, drove it down. Cinda's like, "What are you doing?" And then I had bought a log cabin in North Carolina as the outpost. So when you say we both started a business, initially it was me with Cinda shaking her head. You're nuts. And granted, so
Okay.
I came from, I was a general manager, 126 employees, just shoot first, ask questions later, go, go, go. So I was still that mentality. And God
Yeah.
bless Cinda for living with me when I was coming home, living with her. She was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "We need to reorganize the junk drawer." I was just looking for something to do. So the outlet to start a new business, she was like, "Okay, this is good. You go do that."
Yeah. Well, we had Cinda on one of the podcasts and got to talk about her entrepreneurial spirit and the cool things that she did with Cinda B, the bag
Yep.
company and everything. So I think you both have that in you. But sometimes it's good to have somebody to balance our decisions sometime. But
She said a very important line to me that every married couple should remember. And it was, she had said something with the business that was a great, piece of advice to me. But I couldn't get it in my head that, wow, she really told me I should have the good ideas. She goes, you and I are on the same team, right? I'm there's a rap song I forgot by Outkast. We're on the same team, starting first string. And it was like, whether I come up with a good decision for the business or you come up with the good bit, it benefits. It all goes to the same, bank account. So
all
this
right.
is not a competition. You have a better idea or I have a better idea. And that was very, oh wow, that's okay. I'm going to remember that going forward.
Yeah, yeah. Um, So I know there was a couple other things that you all have done, and I want to talk about the big boat trip. But I remember that you had a lot of my career, I marketed unique and innovative products,
Yep.
and you came up with a product that was was it a license plate cover that would add to the brake lights?
Well,
Do you remember?
I can get you one if you hold on for a second.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Hold on.
While he's gone, we're getting a sneak peek at some of his artwork, which we're going to be talking about here in a second too, Carl.
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff.
I like the lightning bolt surfboard too.
Sudden stop.
Okay, there it is. Sudden stop. Okay, so what was the inspiration behind sudden stop? And I want to know because I had a lot of different products that I worked with, and I was never able to get mine in the Sky Mall magazines back when the day when they had the flight magazines, but you got that thing advertised in there. That's an accomplishment by itself.
I did. Well, long story short, when we were driving on that world trip in Europe, I noticed that the Europeans do a unique thing. Now Americans do it, but when they need to stop quickly, they hit their hazard light or their hazard button, right? European cars have a big triangle in the middle of the dashboard. Growing up, where was our hazard switch? It
Yeah,
was
who
that
knows? You got
fun,
to look around for it.
it was that funny little thing that you pressed in. It had a black collar. It was under. It was on the steering column underneath,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right? So you had to
Yep.
like look for it. So I was like, wow, that's a great idea. You flash your hazards before someone rear ends you. What can I create to do that? So I developed a license plate frame that goes on any car. So it literally just screws on like a license plate surround. But when you stop, there's a built in accelerometer and a battery, all
look at
built
that.
in, nothing wires to the car. And so it's
Huh.
a self contained O blank uh, stoplight. So it grabs the attention. At the statistic we would use at 60 miles an hour in a quarter second, if you grab someone's attention that much quicker, it saves 90 feet of stopping distance. So it's
Wow.
the difference
Nice.
between a rear end collision or not. And it sold for $35 retail. Um, it was a hard sell because it's very hard to sell a safety out. You're trying to sell the positives of a negative happening,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
nothing like that had been created before. The S Class Mercedes had similar, $100,000 vehicle had similar technology. Here, I developed something for $35, but I had to create the bow wave of knowledge to Pep Boys and to all the
yeah.
retailers.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's almost like a lot of the products that I represented. It was a demonstration sort of a product where you had to kind of explain
yeah,
what it is that it does, and oh, I never thought that I might need that.
yeah.
But
But
yeah, it's good.
the demo was pretty easy. You whoop, you do that, and then so
Yeah, and then it
anyway,
goes.
it was a fun run. That was a 5 year run. I did my own patent drawing, so I patented it. I did. So art has always been in my life, kind of woven throughout. So when I hired my patent attorney, they said, "Who are you going to get to do your drawings?" And I said, "Well, I think I can do them." So I made mine special. It was an Aston Martin DB7 as my figurative drawings for the patent. So I was like, I bet you that's the only patent in the history of all patents to have an Aston Martin
Mhm.
as a figurative drawing.
That's a great idea. Well, let's move into the art work real quick because I guess I'd known you for a number of years before I became aware of the fact that you are such an accomplished painter and artist. So you just kind of said that art's been kind of all through your life, but
Yep.
when did you decide that, all right, I'm going to start doing this, and at least partially, this is going to be my living. I am going to do some stuff, and I'm going to, do this with that kind of a passion. When did that come into play?
So I call it my coming out party was December of 2010 when I had amassed about 10 works that I thought were pretty cool. And I invited everyone I know, got some local magazines, got an alcohol distributor to, throw the party, and came out as an artist. And people were like you said, never knew. But it was Cinda that about 6 months earlier had said, your God given gift is what you take for granted and you think everybody can do.
Yeah.
They can't. And you've done the car business, you've done the off-road business, you've done the license plate. Why don't you try being an artist? I was like, I don't want to be an artist, blah, blah, blah. I'm not an arty type guy. She said, do 20 paintings and just pretend like you're doing it full time. And so the sixth painting that I did, through a connection, there's a museum here in outside of Atlanta that's a Smithsonian affiliated Western art museum. Their curator got wind of my piece, said we want it in our permanent exhibition as part of our permanent, artworks. And Cinna's like, see, like you maybe want to try and continue this a little bit further. So that's when I was like, all right, let's throw an event. Let's see if we can sell some pieces and let's see what happens. So that was 15 years ago.
So it
And I
sounds
haven't,
like my cousin gives you a lot of really good advice.
she is, yeah, I definitely married up. I don't know why she sticks with me.
You guys are both terrific. Well, I know that you kind of your style, I don't know if that's the right word in the art world, but you've done a lot of things of celebrities and you've got this cool style. And if I'm not mistaken, your the work, the celebrity that you sold the most paintings of, my childhood crush, Linda Carter as Wonder Woman. Is that correct? Is she still the top seller for you?
She, yeah, she definitely is. And I think the magic there is that obviously men appreciate her beauty
Yeah,
and some of her assets. And women find her, and girls find her empowering. So a lot of times the art purchase is, the woman of the house or female that is wanting to make their
right.
collection. So it's easier for the husband or man to say, yeah, I'm behind that one. Let's get that purchase. So it really it's kind of an easy sell. I enjoy painting. It's this image.
Right.
I don't have, but it's just a powerful image. I've done it 1,000 times probably. I don't know, and it's
Yeah.
always fun to mix with it. But yeah, so I'm trying to get away from more of the celebrity stuff, which is a whole new look that I'm doing. But I also do automotive. One of my true passions on art is painting 60s, 70s, and 80s era racing. The formula, the whole. Those were the men that there were no roll bars. The helmets were basically just
Yeah.
a little chin strap, and they were out there. The transmission was whirling in between their crotch, like
Yeah.
those guys. So I
They're
love,
test pilots on wheels.
yeah, exactly. So I love
Yeah.
trying to. That's some of my favorite stuff to paint.
I don't think I've ever seen any of your automotive stuff, but I know you're kind of moving into animals now. In fact, I think right behind you might be, is that a work in
There's
progress?
there's a. Can you see the leopard? Where is it? There we go.
There.
I get
Oh,
that.
There's a leopard over my shoulder. So yeah,
yeah.
I've came up with that concept a year or so ago, trying to figure out how to launch that new look. And then through my gallery in New York, they pitched it to a hotel in Palm Beach called the Colony Hotel. It's
Okay.
a hot hotel right now. It's like there's Beverly Hills Hotel and then the Colony. And it's a great look for them. So I'm painting 7 pieces for the hotel. I'll be the artist in residence there. They'll probably have them up for 6 months to a year.
Nice.
So yeah, that's a great opportunity. It's my second artist in residence. I was artist in residence for the Surrey Hotel in Manhattan in 2015.
Nice. Well,
I didn't know that's kind of cool. I didn't know there was an artist in residence field. But when you Stan and I for work, as you know, we do a lot of events. So we
Yep.
go to these, the Wynn and some of these higher end hotels, and you take for granted the amount of artwork that is through these amazing buildings and just massive paintings. So there's a
Yeah.
lady I follow, Mark, that you probably know of. Her name is Tanya Stadnik.
I don't know her.
She look her up when you get a chance. She paints
Okay.
Porsches. So
Oh, nice.
She's a beautiful woman, but she also paints these amazing classic Porsches and stuff. So Porsche has now, I think she's their artist in residence, but she does these amazing, cool, like you're saying, these in motion and still, but a lot of classic stuff. She's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check her out.
So I got a question for you, Mark. You've got, I'm going to call it your style. And even
Uh-huh.
looking at your leopard, it looks to me sort of, I mean, I've looked at so much of your stuff now that I'd go, oh, that looks like that's a Mark Boomershine kind of
Yep.
style. Even though you're not painting the celebrity this time, which I thought was real easy to, you could tell that that was your stuff. So is that style something that you had to create and work on, or is that just what comes out of you? You see what I'm asking?
Yeah, it comes out. It is you can get all technical artsy fartsy and call it economy of gesture or economy of stroke, where I try and use the least amount of brush strokes to convey the most amount of information to your eye. So actually, for instance, let's look up close at the leopard. When you look up close, there are
Yeah.
very few strokes in
Oh,
this.
okay.
The
Yeah.
farther you get away, the more detailed.
Detailed it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
But yeah, it's interesting. I chat GPT'd myself and asked chat GPT to describe the artist Mark Boomershine's style. And it gave a very apt description of my style. And then I asked it, can you show me examples? And it said because of copyright issues, it couldn't. So I was glad to hear that. But and on that note, there's a lot of talk of how AI is going to affect artists. I see
Right.
it as a tool. And in fact, I had a portrait client. She has two girls. She had Chat GPT or some AI create the look of my art for her girls in a Wonder Woman pose, right? For the two girls, and sent me an email of that. And for a moment, it kind of shook me to the core, right? Because it was like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at a piece that I didn't create, but it looks like my work.
Right.
But then I was like, wait a minute, this is actually a great tool. I know exactly what she wants now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in a commission, you kind of go back and forth, and they're like,
Oh,
and so I was like, she did half my work for me. So now, I just take what she wanted, and as you said, Stan, put it in my style.
yeah. Well, we've had a lot of discussions on what drives you about AI, and I have also decided to embrace it. I mean, we can be afraid of it, and there is some things I think that should be cautious, but it can be a great tool as well. I would have to think that at your level, there's always going to be the people who want a real painting and not an AI print of something. So I would be more concerned for, some of the graphic artists that are just churning stuff out for
Yeah.
businesses or advertising. But listen, we you either embrace it and use it to enhance things and make your life easier, or it's like a lot of technologies you can get left behind.
If you want a poster on the wall, AI is great. If you're a even partially avid artist collector, part of what inspires you to buy the piece from that artist is that person,
Yeah,
and who is that person?
right.
Crazy, whatever values I have. That so an AI generated poster doesn't have any of that. So I think that's some job security.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would think so.
I, Mark, I wanted to, not that this was in my brain when we started this, but that you just kind of hit on a little bit with the AI and maybe crossover. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on this because what I want to dive into and step in is your YouTube career, because that's where we're all kind of come symbiotically come together. But have you dabbled at all in NFTs of your stuff?
That was a thing about 2 or 3 years ago. I was being approached right and left, and I definitely had to educate myself on it. And during the education process, I think AI came along, and then to be honest, it's fallen off my
Yeah.
radar. And I think the NFT art market has kind of, obviously, you got some people who are really into it, but I think it was a hot thing, and then it's kind of dissipated.
Yeah.
Uh, I was like, you know what, I'm a pretty simple guy. This is way too complicated for me. So wait, they're gonna buy a token that gives them a right to this image, and it's digital. Just give me a canvas and let me paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, now that we mention this, because I know Carl really has enjoyed watching your YouTube channel, and we'll finish up with the YouTube and the big boat trip. But speaking of AI and job security, when I was at your house and I was watching some of your YouTubes,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, who does the voiceovers on those? And you were
Oh
like,
yes.
it's an AI voiceover. I'm like, wait a minute. You've got a cousin who's been a professional voiceover artist for decades, and you're using AI? I almost walked out of the house right then. I was,
Sorry, I didn't yeah, no empathy there for you on that one. Well, I've done some voiceover too, so I but oh yeah, it's crazy. You're talking about Russell. He has a name.
Oh,
oh, okay.
He has a whole
Well,
fan base.
well, as long as he has a name and a fan base, and I'm not too insulted by
He's pretty
that,
Carl
but
maybe have seen him. He's pretty quippy.
it's funny because when we started, I didn't really pay attention to it because the first couple of episodes, it was mostly Cinda narrating it.
Yeah.
But then later, maybe it was like, I don't know, 6 months in or 9 months in, I started hearing this voice and I called Stan. I'm like, hey, dude, they got a British or a Australian dude narrating their stuff. What happened to you? Is she mad at you? And we just laughed about it. So that
yeah.
was cool.
Well, Mark, let's talk about the trip. I know it's called what, the Loop?
The great you can call it the Great Loop, the Great American Loop. The apparently the Canadians get offended now if you call it the Great American Loop, so maybe it should be the Great North American Loop. But yeah, it
Okay.
is a circuitous 6,000 mile route, circular route up the most people do it up the eastern seaboard, start in Florida, go up the eastern seaboard, mostly ICW. You get to New York City, you take a left, go up the Hudson. The Hudson will eventually take you into the St. Lawrence. You make your way up the St. Lawrence, the Erie, and then you're in Canada. And we did the amazing waters of Canada during the warmest months. So you usually start about April, May, so that you're up in Canada, July, August. And
Yeah.
then you make it through Canada, you dump back into the States. We did Lake Michigan, we did the Michigan side of Lake Michigan. And then right at Chicago, you dump into the rivers and you do 1,300 miles of rivers, which encompasses the Chicago River, the Mississippi, the Ohio, the Cumberland, the Tennessee, all of that. So we got on the rivers in late September. We dumped into the Gulf of Mexico Christmas.
Hmm.
So September to December on the rivers, 140 locks pretty much to keep up with all those elevations
Yeah.
of the water changes. Then you're on the west coast of Florida. You hang out in Key West for about a month because it just makes the most sense. You're exhausted from moving. So you sit there for a month. And then most people are about done. They go up a little bit north into Florida. We said, let's go on over to the Bahamas. That was our carrot,
Mm.
taking all of that, the cold 20 degrees on the rivers. So then we hit the Bahamas. We crossed the Gulf Stream, went over the Bahamian Shelf and hit the Exumas. And we were in Bahamas for 2.5 months. And then you cross back. We started in Stewart, we ended in Stewart, Florida, and all that was 15 months and 7,000 miles, nautical miles.
Now tell everybody who all went on this trip with you, because I think it's pretty cool story.
We had a captain, a chef, a chief stew, a laundry person, a tutor. No, we had Mark, Cinda, Belle, and Rex, and two cats.
And two cats. They brought the two cats. So, I mean, how Bell and Rex are how old now?
11 and 13. They were 8 and 10 at the time.
8 and 10. And were they as enthusiastic as you and Cinda were about this? And did they continue with that through the whole trip, or did it get? I mean, that's a lot for kids, I would think.
It is, but they had always so Cinda had that, and I had that dream since before they were born.
Hmm.
And so they had grown up with us crossing over a bridge with the ICW on it under it, and us saying, "Hey, kids, we'll be on that one day." So it was something they had always heard of and knew we were going to do. So then when we actually got to doing it, it wasn't like at 7 years old, "Hey, kids, we think we're going to do this." It
Right.
was,
They
they
were
always knew that.
prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we waited until one, they were safe enough to swim. Because that's, somebody accidentally
Yeah.
falls overboard, even with a
Sure.
life vest. And then somewhat old enough to remember the trip. We could have waited a little bit longer, because when they see these videos, they're like, "Oh man, I can barely remember that."
Yeah.
But there's a sweet spot where they're safe enough. And then if you wait too long and they're teenagers, they don't want to hang out on the boat with you. And
Yeah.
they're missing
They
their
want to
friends.
be with their friends. Yeah.
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 So
Well, it sounds like you found the sweet spot. So you created then your own YouTube channel. Where
yeah,
can people go and see the adventures of the Boomer Shines?
we are the Boomer Shines on YouTube. And it is the adventures of our Great Loop voyage. Every leg is every episode is when the boat physically moves from one dock or one anchorage to another. So we're right behind you. We post every Friday. I just did the final cut right before I got on with you of episode 98.
Nice.
Um,
Nice. So
and
That
it's
so
was
people find it with the Boomer Shines.
the Boomer Shines. Yep.
Yeah. Has anybody ever misspelled Boomer Shine? It's such an unusual name, but it sounds, I mean, it's spelled just like it sounds.
It's uh, it's intimidating at first, but then people are like, "Oh, it's just Boomer Shine." And then
Yeah.
I never liked my name. Really, it's a lot to say as a young kid and to write. But when we went out to California, and people kept saying, "That's a super cool name," and I started, like, "Wow, it kind of is Boomer Shine." I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
I
was I had the same thing with Windhorn. It was like it's kind of strange, and people would sometimes say, "Well, is that Native American?" And I kind of grew to like it, and like your name, people, well, how's that spelled? And I'm like
yeah,
Windhorn, and they're like, "Oh, just like it sounds." I'm like, "Yeah,
yep,
pretty much, yeah."
yep.
well,
Well, I
you're
wish we had more time to talk about your adventures in California because I know you guys got to have some cool things happen there and hang out with some fun people.
Yeah, we were. It was a sweet time. We got out right before COVID and now the fires. And
yeah.
anybody that's there now, prayers for them, and everybody's like, "Man,
Yeah,
y'all played it right. You got here right at the right time and left at the right time."
yeah. Well, cool. Carl, you got anything else you want to ask Mark before we let him go? I
Yeah.
want to be respectful of his time.
Well, we could spend a whole episode on the YouTube journey because I think, as you say, we're pacing episode for episode, which I noticed a couple episodes ago. I'm like, hey, they're right with us on our posting. We were trying to get to 100 episodes this year. We were just short. So again, today, thank you for being our 100th guest because you're the first like real YouTuber we've had on. We've had a couple, minor actors and a lot of restaurateurs, a couple survivors. So it's really perfect timing to have a good YouTube guest on. But I guess I would just ask real quickly before we get to our little shotgun session here of questions. When you started the YouTube, was your goal to just share the journey? Were you trying to get monetized? Was it creative? Like how I'll tell you how our journey started was during COVID. I was just so isolated and alone. I started diving into YouTube
Yep.
and I created because what they teach you on YouTube is share or create content that you either know about or you're passionate about. So I created this whole series, Mark, of how to buy a car, how to get the most for your trade, how to get the best deal, when to buy, all that. I never published them because they were
Yeah.
so creepy and dark. I was like in a hoodie, in the witness protection. And
It's
so
not. Yeah, it's always good to go back and look at your first stuff. And you're like, "Ooh, yeah,
yeah, it was terrible. Well, thankfully nobody saw this stuff. But then when we hit 2025, I said to Stan, "Hey Stan, I need somebody to kind of sharpen my iron and keep me going and be a co-host." Matter of fact, the one that Cinda did, I wasn't available, so it was just Stan. And we've done a couple of those where I've done my own or Stan's done his own, but the best is always when we have the two of us and a guest or two guests. But
Mhm.
what was your hope creating the channel?
Well, let's go back. Unlike you, where you didn't post your first ones that were cringy, so our current iteration is not what we started with. We started right when we were going out to California, so
Hmm.
2015, and it was us doing our. We drove every time from Georgia to California because we'd come back to Georgia to go to the lake stand every summer because we
Hmm.
would rent our house in Atlanta. So we would chronicle our road trips. And who would want to watch a family of four with at the time, a 1 year old and a 3 year old drive cross country? I think we had like 2,000 subscribers. We did it all on the iPhone. Like you look back and it was like, ugh. Um, so we had been familiar with YouTube, but then we always knew when we do this boat trip, one, let's document it for ourselves because this is a family thing. We think this is something that our kids will tell their kids, and it's just something we should chronicle. And how else do you do that? Because you can put it on a hard drive, but then that hard drive becomes obsolete because you don't have the fire wire to go to the ether port and all that stuff. So then we just decided we post it to YouTube because theoretically YouTube will be in some version of itself. So we'll store it on YouTube. And then it was kind of like, well, there are people that, so during buying our boat, that became a whole series. And we put one or two out. People were like, this is great information. So, like you on your information for buying cars. So we are like, all right, let's just run with it. But then we did the trip and navigating, captaining, keeping up with weather, planning the routes, planning the marinas that you're going to stay at, teaching the kids, which Cinda was doing. There was no time to edit. It takes 10 hours roughly to edit each episode. So we didn't edit live. We wanted to do it live. And so what happened was we were done in May of 23. I didn't start editing until December of 23. And here we are 2 years later, and I'm about halfway done with the loop.
Wow.
So some people are they'll go, wait a minute, this isn't current, and we're kind of like, well, does it detract from your information or from the trip at all? We don't think so,
Yeah.
but you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Hence, you're not paying for this, so if you want to go to, there are a bunch of other great, amazing sailing and boating things, but we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And in fact, we think for episode 100, we're going to have a Here We Are Now, and people are going to freak out when they see the kids because, you know,
Yeah, they're
they,
grown. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I got to tell you,
so
we had a guest. Our 98th episode was a professional illusionist. He's a resident. He has a resident show up in Lake Tahoe. And when he found out that he was episode 98, he goes, "Man, if I'd have known that, I'd have held out to be 100." Well,
woohoo.
Mark, man, appreciate this so much. Carl, you want to run through the car questions?
Sure, sure. As I said, Mark, and most people know, thank you everyone for following us and watching these 100 episodes. But we again started as a car channel, and we've now changed it to what drives you in life. So you're
Yep.
driven by art and family and creativeness and entrepreneurial spirits, all of things which are core to this channel and to Stan and I too. So we do take this little segment to say, what was your kind of rapid fire, real quick? What was your first car? Fire away.
White on white Pontiac Grand Dam GT with the quad 16. It was a four-cylinder 16 valve,
Ooh,
two
first Grand
door.
Am. Yeah.
It was
That's the
pretty sweet.
first one we've had of that one. Most
Uh,
people are like, I had a whatever held together by duct tape and
yeah.
Hey, I was a dealer's son. I got a new car
yeah,
every 3 months.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got it made.
Which, funny enough, I didn't like. I wanted my own car. So at my senior year, I said, Dad, I don't want the demos anymore. I want my own car. And I bought a 78 K5 Blazer.
There you go. That's
All
a good
right.
one. All right. What was of all the cars you've owned, And maybe let's stick to, because like you, I've been in the car business over 30 years, and I have just had a bunch of cars that weren't actually mine. So cars
Yeah.
that you owned or leased, that was your favorite.
I've never leased a car, so haven't. I, that's so hard. Who's your favorite child?
Tough one.
Cinda's driving a Lincoln Aviator that has knocked our socks off. My favorite car is what I'm driving currently, which is a Porsche Cayenne 2008 with 150,000 miles. It's a V8S that I have jacked up 2.5 inches and put off-road
That's
tires
right.
on. And
That's right. I remember that. That thing is so crazy looking. I wish we had a picture on it right now. Oh man.
it's a beast. So yeah, that's my son is like, ugh. But the kids at school know it. His name is Gunter. We name all our cars.
That's
So
cool. Gunter.
yeah.
All right. And then the last one is there's no budget, there's no limit. What's your dream car?
If you're going for speculative automotive, I'll do a Ferrari GTO, which I think they're at 15 million. But every day, so one of my favorite cars growing up was a rally car built by Lancia, and there is now an Italian company. I forgot their name, but they're taking the old Lancia and they're revamping it. And they're, if you know Singer Porsche, they're
Yeah.
doing
Yep.
the Singer model for these Lancias, and they're super super cool.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty unique. That might be the only one we're hearing of that.
It's got
Cool.
the Martini. You got to get the Martini Racing livery, the red, blue, and dark blue, black. Yeah, but that's pretty cool. I don't even know what they run. But yeah, they're just gorgeous.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up, Mark, but we always finish up with our words of wisdom. We always ask our guests to give something, either maybe a statement that you kind of use to live by, or Carl likes to say, what if you were talking to a young Mark? What advice would you give our audience?
I'm not good at the one answers on this one. I will say during the loop, the kids learned assess, adapt, and overcome, and they
Nice.
use that. That's just a great thing in life. Don't freak out. Calm down. Let's look at what's going on and let's fix it. But for me, I'll turn this around because I stare at it at my desk. You see that? Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
I love it. That is awesome. Mark,
So,
man, thank you so much. Please give the kids and Cinda a hug for me. Appreciate you taking time to do this with us, man. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so really, really appreciate you being here with us.
well, I'm honored to be 100.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll look
Carl, it's
forward.
always great to see you, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you guys stay warm in this cold front. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of What Drives You. And as we always like to say, remember to be good humans.